This is Linda Lehrhaupt, and I'd like to welcome you to the Mindfulness-Based Teacher Project. Podcast number 4. Because you're not sure, I trust you.
In 1996 or so, after I had been studying Zen with my teacher for about 9 years and had been studying Zen a total of 17 years, he told me that one day I would be a Zen teacher. He didn't say when, but it didn't matter, because the moment he told me, as I began to sit with the fear, sometimes I would be shaking, or I would feel like the pit of my stomach had fallen out. This fear came up in different ways. One of the fears was, how could I possibly teach anyone? I felt so full of confusion. I felt that my understanding of the Dharma was so shallow that it would be a complete charade to think that I could lead and teach other people Zen. I also was very scared of the responsibility. What if I made a mistake? What if I said something wrong? I so tied myself up in knots that the only thing I could do was to stop teaching. At that point, I was responsible for leading groups and giving talks now and again, and one thing and another, and I simply stopped. I didn't do any individual guidance anymore. I would lead an introductory Zen class and keep it at the most basic level. I would refrain from doing any teaching which might be taken as my teaching Dharma. For 2 years, I held myself back. I can't really explain the depth of insecurity and questioning. But the one thing I didn't do in those 2 years was talk to my teacher about it. When I would see him, I would try to maintain a face of being in charge, taking responsibility for things, but I never shared with him my fear. After about 2 years, this sense of responsibility and doubt became like a coal in my belly. It totally dominated me, and I felt that I couldn't go on anymore holding it in. So I made the decision to, the next time that I was in America, practicing at our center, I asked my teacher for an appointment to speak with him. One day he called me up and said, okay, I have some time now. Why don't you take a drive with me? We were driving up the mountains and just enjoying the view and not saying very much. And then at one point he turned to me and said, okay, what is it you wanted to talk with me about? Well, I have to say that in that period before he spoke with me, I had been going through a kind of a process within myself where I realized that it was okay not to be certain, that my struggle to make everything clear and to feel secure was not the way it was going to happen. My insecurity was asking, begging me to acknowledge it. My fear was asking me to be with it rather than trying to get rid of it or hide it in a box somewhere. As I began to be more intimate with my fear, with my insecurity, with my not trusting myself, I realized that I would simply have to live with this for a while. And that also I had been wanting to speak with my teacher because I hoped that he would take away my pain, or he would give me some sort of reassurance. And at that moment that I realized the only one who can help me to begin to trust myself is myself. And so when he asked me, what is it that you want to talk to me about? I said, well, I did have something I wanted to talk with you about, but I feel actually that it's something I really need to be with more. And that only I can really answer my questions. He was silent for a while. So I told him about my insecurity and my lack of trust in myself. And I explained some of the things that I had been going through over the last 2 years. And I also explained that how I had withdrawn from teaching because I didn't feel that I could responsibly take on that role if I was so unsure. There was a pause. And then he said to me, because you're unsure, I trust you completely. At that moment, something dropped in me and the tears just flowed out of my eyes. My teacher just kept driving. He didn't say anything else. I was simply sitting with the words, it's because you're unsure that I trust you. They just kept coming up in a very gentle way. And at one moment, I realized that the true trust that I was seeking was allowing myself to drop into this feeling of insecurity. In that moment, I was home. At that moment, there was simply what was. There was simply what is. I had been looking for signposts. It's like I was driving on a highway and I wanted to see clear signs of where I had to go, whether I had to turn left or whether I had to turn right. I didn't want to risk not knowing exactly where I was. It's kind of like the dilemma of having a GPS. Many people say that actually having a GPS these days takes the fun out of driving, whereas one might set off to go someplace and kind of say, okay, I'll look at the map, but I'll just take my time getting there, and whatever comes up along the way is something I'll discover. Now with the GPS and being able to program exactly where one wants to go, and then there's a voice that's constantly telling us turn left, turn right, we've given up also a relationship to the world around us. We're no longer on the road. We're simply completely identified with the goal. And so our tolerance for not knowing exactly where we are at any time has gone down tremendously. That doesn't mean that it isn't helpful sometimes to know exactly how to get somewhere and to be able to get there. If you have to go to the hospital and it's an emergency, it's really helpful to get there as quickly as possible. But in the way of going inward and really coming to know ourselves, it's only as we explore and try to find the path that we truly can know where we are at any time. I think of a story Bernie Glassman tells in one of his books. It's about a businessman who's in a hurry to get to a meeting. He's driving in his car and ends up in the countryside somewhere. And he's really getting frustrated because he doesn't have a GPS and he's confused by the map that he has, and he just can't figure out where and how to get to where he needs to be. He stops by the side of the road and he says to a farmer who's standing there, "How do you get to such and such?" And the farmer said, "Well, I don't really know. Let me think about it." And the businessman, being very impatient, said, "Well, how do you don't know? I mean, this is a pretty big town here in the area. You've been living here, haven't you? You've lived here." And he said, "Yeah, I've lived here all my life, but I can't quite get it. Which way to get there exactly? I have to think about it a bit." The businessman is really impatient, and he said, "What is it with you? I mean, how can you be so unsure about where this place is?" And the farmer said to him, "I may not know how to get there right off the bat, but I'm not lost." For me, it really was the difference between willing to be with my sense of not knowing, my sense of not being sure, and at the same time knowing that I was not lost.
I'd like to share with you a practice inspired by this story, which helps me when I'm in a dark space about my teaching. Please take your seat in whatever way is comfortable for you. Just settling in. And gently bring your attention to the breath, noticing the physical sensations of breathing, allowing the breath to come and go as it will. And now I'd like to invite you to bring to mind a teaching situation where you don't know how to get where you want to go. Taking some time to be with whatever thoughts, scenes, or emotions are present for you right now.
Just being with whatever arises, neither pushing it away nor dwelling in it. And now I'm going to ask you to listen again to the words of the farmer. I may not know how to get there, but I am not lost. Did you laugh or smile when you first heard them? Or maybe now? Please say the words to yourself, not as affirmations, but just repeating them. And after you have said them, just listen into the silence. I may not know how to get there, but I am not lost. I may not know how to get there, but I am not lost. Letting the words resonate in the silence. And perhaps repeating them out loud again. I may not know how to get there, but I'm not lost. My meditation guidance will end now, but please continue with this practice as long as you wish. Repeating and then listening. I may not know how to get there, but I am not lost.
Thank you for listening to the Mind